Hello, everyone. I wanted to cover a few more authors in this video. The writers that we read on October 23rd. I wanted to do a quick video kind of discussing some of the major points of each of them. You got some major writers that you read on that day: Zora Neale Hurston, um, William Faulkner, and Ernest Hemingway. I would like to talk a little bit about Hurston and Hemingway, and then talk more in depth about Faulkner, who is probably one of my all-time favorite American writers. Hurston, um, African American writer. She grew up in a town in Florida that was all African American when she was growing up. The only people she was ever around were African American. It was kind of a segregated community. And because of that, she is in her adult life going to see the wider community. And so, that is something that's important to know about Hurston because it does maybe influence her outlook on life, her viewpoint. She didn't deal with a lot of the racism that other African Americans at the time were having to deal with because she hadn't experienced it because she hadn't been around any white people and had not experienced segregation as a result of that and the racism that had not been her lived experience. She writes a lot about, she kind of realizes as she is studying academically in college that the stories that she grew up around, the folklore, is just a wealth of knowledge that she has that a lot of people don't have. And that becomes a major focus of her academic studies as well as of her writing. Um, Two things kind of though did hurt Hurston as a novelist that would kind of lose her a lot of her reputation for many years. One was she took a stance on the civil rights movement that was counter to most African Americans at the time. She was kind of pro-segregation because it had been something that she had kind of not experienced racism and stuff because of growing up in Eatonville, Florida. She saw that maybe segregation was a good thing from her perspective. And that is something that would cost Hurston to lose a lot of her reputation in the African American literary community. Langston Hughes and Richard Wright and other writers are not going to be happy about the stance that she took. Another thing that is going to be very negative on Hurston's career is the accusation of sexual molestation of a minor that occurred. Though those charges do get dismissed, that would be something that would be a black mark on Hurston and would be something that would cause her not to be getting a lot of the recognition she otherwise would have gotten. Um, with those things notwithstanding, uh, the writer Alice Walker, the author of The Color Purple, is going to be a great champion of Zora Neale Hurston's after Hurston's passed away. Walker is a great champion of the writing that Hurston produced and is quite influential in making Hurston a part of the literary canon. Now, one particular line I wanted to bring up from the story you read by Hurston, Sweat. Um, in that short story, I think one of the great lines that we see where we're witnessing in this short story a woman who is being abused by her husband, who is just he's just kind of a reprehensible person, and he cheats on her. He is abusive towards her. He brings this snake in that he knows she's afraid of, and kind of taunts her with it. On page 544, one of the other men, there are several men who have been observing how her husband Sykes has treated her. And I think it's a real eye-opening statement here when one of them says, "There ain't no law on earth that can make a man be decent if it ain't in him." And it kind of says a lot about those individuals who are watching this abusive relationship take place, that nobody steps up and they kind of excuse it by saying, well, nothing can really be done about it. Sykes is a bad guy. And they just kind of don't make any actions towards rectifying that. So that's kind of very important in that particular work. I wanted to briefly talk about the Hemingway story that we read on page 919 and through 922 of the textbook. Heels Like White Elephants, which is kind of it's a story that represents a lot of Hemingway's writing style. He doesn't, Hemingway versus Faulkner is a writer who just kind of writes the bare minimum. Every word in Hemingway's stories has an importance, or else he leaves it out. And so you read Hills Like White Elephants, and a lot of the necessary information is not a part of the story. In particular, the word that the story is about, which is abortion. Most readers of this story believe that this is a story about abortion, and that word is never mentioned. But it's pretty clear that that's what the two people, the American and Jig, or as she's referred to as the girl, uh, they're dealing with the prospect of a pregnancy from their relationship and the ending of that pregnancy. And so that's Hemingway kind of does an excellent job of just saying the only, a bare minimum of what needs to be said. It's kind of just his strength as a writer. Um, Couple of important lines in this story. On page 920, Jig says, I wanted to try this new drink. That's all we do, isn't it? Look at things and try new drinks. Kind of see how she has assessed their relationship. And then ultimately on the next page, she tells the American, she says, then I'll do it because I don't care about me, which is just kind of just a sad um, uh, admission of that she is going to do what he is wanting her to do, but that it's really not something necessarily that she sees in her best interest. So you have Hemingway. Um, a contrast to Hemingway is William Faulkner, and we read A Rose for Emily. Um, that is a story of his that is set in the world that he created that is based on his hometown, uh, Oxford, Mississippi. The world that he created is Yoknapatawpha County, which is based on where he lives, Oxford, Mississippi. Jefferson is Oxford. Um, in this story, it's a good representation of the South that William Faulkner writes about. I could go on and on talking about William Faulkner. When I was in grad school, one time, one of my professors in a class, not in a class, but in an exam was kind of grilling me to about Faulkner since I include him so much in my PhD exams. Is Faulkner a great writer? She asked, and I can't remember my exact answer, but since then I've always the thing I always tell students is, other than William Shakespeare, there is not a writer in the English language who has more written about his works on a year-to-year basis than William Faulkner. There's like a big industry around his writing, that conferences, papers, books that are frequently published examining the world of Faulkner that he created in Yoknapatawpha County. And Emily Grierson is a character in that world. Um, it's kind of a lot of a commentary that Faulkner has about the South. He was a product of the South, but he was critical of the antebellum South, but also the new South that he saw rising up around him. He was critical of both, and he and Emily Grierson kind of represents that Old South, the antebellum South, where she is revered because of her family and her last name, and nothing is done about a lot of the actions that she takes. Um, she is described as a monument, um, that she is something that the town's supposed to take care of her because of who she is. The Colonel Sardras, who was a character based on Faulkner's own grandfather, he makes it where she won't have to pay taxes. Um, when she is um, called to pay her taxes, she refers to the sheriff as somebody as, well, maybe he considers himself the sheriff. So we kind of get a good idea there of her attitude of what how she feels about the new world coming around her. And Faulkner uses her to kind of represent and critique the old Southern antebellum attitudes. And of course, Homer Barron, the fiance who she ultimately poisons and kills and uh, has his remains in her bedroom. He represents the New South, and there's a lot of criticism of him in this story as well. But I could talk on and on about Faulkner, but it's kind of wanted to do a little bit of an introduction here. I didn't assign barn burning. It's an even more criticism of the New South than Rose for Emily is. Rose for Emily is very much criticism of the Old South. Barn burning, if you want to see him being critical of the New South, then you see that even more so in barn burning. So that's where I'll stop on Faulkner so I don't go on and on. But I hope you enjoyed these stories. I think they're all very good. And I'll be trying to add a few more videos here soon as well. Thank you.